welcome back everyone for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com where I talk about those books you could still probably find tucked away in those cheap boxes, those discount bins, those dollar boxes at your LCS. Just wherever you do your cheap comic book hunting, these are some things I think you should be on the lookout for based off of some of the recent news, rumors, things going on in the actual comics, etc. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. You keep telling your friends so we can keep growing this channel. And if you want to see this week's books, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, well, let's get right into it with the actual comics. These are some of the new releases that came out this week that may have had some appearances and some characters that showed up that we may not have seen in a while. Just some fun stuff where we can still find some first appearances and some key comics based off of some of these random-ass characters, just for kind of a fun scavenger hunt kind of challenge for you guys when you're out there digging this weekend. Just some fun stuff so we can just enjoy this hobby and enjoy these comics for what they are. First things first, let's look at the all-new Wolverine book. Laura Kinney, Wolverine, #1 came out this week. Solid read. I actually did enjoy this. I was worried about it at first, but reading it through, I enjoyed this this first series. I like the idea of the setup, and we can be getting more short form, one-off stories, things like that. Not everything needs to be some huge, overarching like epic that runs 6 to 10 issues or something like that. We can do the occasional good one-off read comic books. Like I miss that a bit these days. But with that said, inside this book, we get a tale of how mutants are being abused, surprisingly, by other mutants. And one of those mutants doing that is this character here, Sybil. I guess it would be pronounced that way. Cybele. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. She's one of those OG Morlocks that we've seen pop up way back in Uncanny X-Men. Now, again, she's been around for a while, but this is a character that has not had that many appearances. Again, the character here we're talking about is Sybil. She has like these acid throwing kind of like powers. She first showed up, as I mentioned, in that Uncanny X-Men 211, where we're dealing with the Morlocks and them getting hunted down, etc. So she actually is one of the first ones to actually get taken down by Scalp Hunter and the crew here in Mutant Massacre. So there she is, first appearance. Well, I shouldn't say last appearance, because she was later, resurrected on the island of Krakoa along with a whole bunch of other mutants, and she kind of showed back up in Hellions #1. But we're not going to talk about that book. I mean, if you want to go find it, you can. That would be like her resurrection return. She's standing there in the background. I don't even think she's named in that book, but that's where she popped back up before, we see her again today on the, in X-23's solo series. Well, I shouldn't call her X-23 anymore. She's Wolverine. So Laura Kinney, Wolverine. Now, this Uncanny X-Men 211 has been a pricey book in the past. I mean, it is a classic Wolverine cover. It is a classic X-Men book. It's part of Mutant Massacre, which was a classic storyline. So it has had its day in the sun, but right now you can see there is still cheap copies. The copies selling for $7, $12. Asking prices, yes. There is a copy that is being called a 9.8 near mint. Somebody's looking for almost $70 for it, but then there's other copies that are like 8 to 15. Now, I'm not saying you're definitely going to find this in a dollar box, but keep an eye out for it. You never know. Your copy you find in the cheap box could be a little beat up, and that's why it's discounted as it is. Or you just find it in a regular back issue bin, and you find it for a price that you like. This is the book you might want to think about picking up, because as we talked about this one on TAC this past Wednesday, there are a lot of first appearances in this. A lot of mutants, Harpoon, and like I mentioned, Scalp Hunter, who's been renamed since then. A lot of firsts in this book, so it is a good one to keep an eye out for that reason. Now, with that all said, any of you out there watching who have not yet tried Whatnot, now is your chance. Use the link below. Get yourselves a free $15 to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. There's no strings attached. You help out the channel. You get yourself something nice. So you really got nothing to lose by giving it a shot. So use the link below and get yourselves that free $15. Now, with that said, let's move on to the next new release I want to talk about this week. And it's another Marvel book, and we're looking at Scarlet Witch #7. Yes, we see another appearance of Amaranth back there. That's Agatha Harkness's protege, if you will. We also got the Scarlet Witch's kids here, Billy and Tommy, hanging out there. So a lot of fun characters in this book. And speaking of Agatha Harkness, we also see an appearance of her son. Nicholas Scratch. That's right. In the TV show, he didn't make it. In the comics, he's been around a while. He's a grown-ass man, as you can see here. At the end of this issue, he pops up there. He's a character, again, has been around for a little while. This book that he first appeared in, this Fantastic Four issue 185, it popped once or twice, I think, throughout the run on Agatha because of the mentions of Nicholas Scratch, the theories and the hopes that he might show up. So it had a couple of times where it might have spiked. But all in all, this is a book that is just kind of just quietly forgotten about. I mean, it's a Fantastic Four book. There's so many Fantastic Four books just tucked away in those cheap boxes out there that just nobody pays much attention to. But there he is, Nicholas Scratch, right there, being introduced inside this issue. And as I mentioned, some highs aside, we've seen this copy sell for as cheap as $3 at auction, $8. There's copies listed at auction starting at $3 or $4, $7.50. It's not an expensive book. Again, there's not a lot of heat around the character or speculation anymore now that the Agatha show has, kind of run its course. Who knows? We'll get a season 2. That doesn't matter. I'm just talking about a character that showed up in the comics. Will probably be in the next issue with Scarlet Witch. Where he goes from there, I don't know. But it's still a fun book for you to go and look for when you're out there digging. And again, comics should be fun, folks. They should be fun. That said, this next book may not be that fun. I like to make fun of it, but oh man, just this Deadpool team up. Major X. I was going to talk about Major X. I was going to talk about Chris Starr, who show up in this book, but I think we've covered them before. And if we haven't, I just didn't feel like it right now. But there was another character inside this issue and has been inside this storyline that I do want to talk about. And that's this guy right over here on the side. No, not Cable. No, not Deadpool. But right there, this dude, Dragon Lord. Yep, Dragon Lord. Yeah, the current images are from his Liefeld run here, but Dragon Lord goes back a ways. He's right here front and center on Fantastic Four Annual number 16, as you can see right there. He's on the cover. He's got his name dropped right there down below, and he's right inside too on the initial splash page. So Dragon Lord, this is his first. Get introduced to this crazy character from back in the day. That said, this book is not expensive, as you might have guessed. This is not one that many people save or post on IG about, saying, hey, look what I found. Look what I picked up. It's just not that type of book. This is a $2 to $4 sale type of book. This is, I'm asking $2.24, and it's already got, it's already discounted 10% off. And then it's also listed for like $5, as high as 17. So there are some higher asks, but by and large, this is not a book that anybody will pay a premium for, but that doesn't mean it's still not a first appearance and a fun book that you can go and grab out of a box and go show off to your friends and be like, look at this, found first Dragon Lord in a box. How about that? Dragon Lord. Cool. All right. With that said, we're going to move over to DC for just a quick minute. And the book I want to talk about over at DC this week is actually Batman Santa Claus. Silent Night Returns. Why? Because there's a lot of characters in this book. Now, we're not going to cover all the Justice League characters and all the heroes and villains that are in it, but there are a few little side characters that kind of popped up. As I said, we haven't seen these characters in so long. It's just odd to see their inclusion. It's kind of refreshing to see their inclusion, and it just kind of reminds you of some books that are out there that nobody's really paying much attention to. That said, Silent Night Returns, number 3. In this issue, we got a lot of magical characters. So Zatanna has this backup team of magical characters. We got Felix Faust and a bunch of these other guys I'm going to list here as options of books that you can go and look for. And the first one right here is Baron Winter. So right there, front and center, and then Felix Faust is right next to him. Again, that's a different character, different book, but Baron Winter, been around for a minute. He goes back to New Teen Titans. This is like Brother Blood time. New Teen Titans number 21. And it's not in the Teen Titans story. No, it's a free preview in the back for the title that features the character in Night Force. So this special Night Force preview right here, you get introduced right away to Baron Winters. So there you go. That would be his first appearance in the back of this issue as a preview. Yes, it is a preview, but it's still pages and storyline in the back of the issue. It's just not Teen Titans story. It's a Night Force story. So just keep that in mind, but it still is in the back of this book. With that said, this book, because of the Brother Blood ties, has had its day in the sun and does have a few over normal type of sales, but still, you can see copies sell for $8, $11. Asking prices $5, $8, 15. Sure, there might be some higher asks based on the condition because again, Brother Blood, he is a larger character and a foe of the Teen Titans. We've seen him come around on the TV shows. Maybe we see him again. I don't know. But that's not what we're talking about it. We're talking about it because of Baron Winter. Now, aside from Baron Winter, there are a couple other magical dudes in this book that I think are kind of fun to go and look for as well. Starting up next with this guy. So Dr. Mist. Yeah, with his purple pants and patterned green jacket. Pretty cool. Dr. Mist. Also, character that's had, it's been around for a while. So it has a bit of a history. We're looking at him right here. He kind of has that third eye. It's kind of like a signature look for him. And he has a predilection towards appearing on television sets. And we'll see that in a minute. Now, some online resources point to this Superman, not Superman. This is actually DC Comics Presents issue 46, the issue just before He-Man shows up, mind you. This issue featuring Superman is the first appearance of the Global Guardians. Cool. But also, some point to it as being a first appearance for some reason of Dr. Mist. But it's really not. But I just wanted to point it out because some point to it. He is there again, as I mentioned, on television. He's got a dark side first appearance kind of vibe thing going. He is in the issue later on, but he is the wizard who wouldn't stay dead. Why is that important? Because, well, he's shown up before, and we'll get to that one in a second. But this particular issue is still cheap. So just for fun, you can still go and look for it, and you can still get it for those Global Guardians if you want. But issues of this sell for $2, 99 cents, $5.09. It's a very cheap comic. Asking prices $3.74, $5, $10. Just to give you a range of, depending on condition, you're going to see a little bit more higher asking prices. But again, not an expensive book, and a book that you probably find just buried in a box. While you're looking for that 47, that He-Man, you might stumble across the 46. So with that in mind, again, it's not really his first. I mean, there might have been like a retcon of the character actually being somebody different, but it looks the same to me. And the character originally showing up in the Super Friends and the Super Friends comic here. So this is the TV comic for Super Friends, issue number 12, back in 1978. So 4 years before that DC Comics Presents book, we had this Super Friends book. And inside the back of this issue, we are again teased with my man on a television screen. He just likes these TV screens, I guess. What kind of wizard doesn't love being on TV? I don't know. But Dr. Mist shows up at the end of this issue. He apparently, obviously is going to be in the next issue, but that's him right there at the tail end of this book. Call it a cameo, call it whatever you want. That's him in the back of this book. With that said, this is still a cheap book. I'm not trying to tell you these things should be expensive. I'm just pointing out some fun stuff for you to go and look for in a box. So for $4.99, $5, $7.50, that's what it's selling for. Asking prices, 99 cents starting bid at auction with no bids and 2 days left. $12, $7. It's not a pricey book. Yes, it's over 40 years old. It's near 50 years old almost at this point. It's an old book, and it's a character that's been around a while. But yeah, it is what it is. He's not the biggest name on the DC side of things, but it's still a fun little book that you can go and look for. One more magical Mr. character that we can talk about, also showing up in this Santa Claus book, is right here. Earlier in the battle, so you see this is the same panel where we looked at Baron Winter, but right above it, we've got this guy here. This is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce this properly, but Extraño? There was like the little accent sign above the end, but the font just wouldn't use it. So anyway, Extraño, he's an interesting one. He's got a look there with that flowy cape. But he's shown up actually originally back in Millennium. I don't know if you remember this book, but a Millennium issue 2 by Steve Englehart, 1987. In issue 2, one of the Guardians there. Is that Ganthet? I think it might be Ganthet. Anyway, introduced to these new characters, and one of them is Extraño or Geraldo Gregorio de la Vega. Dude, look, that's a look. Look at that outfit. It looks like Disco Forge a little bit, but yeah. Interesting character, to say the least. And as you might guess, this is a very, very cheap book. So if you wanted to go and find this for fun, you could find the whole Millennium series basically in those cheap boxes. But here I got some examples. Couldn't find any single sales for issue 2, but we're looking at 4 issues for $4, all 8 issues for $8, all 8 issues for $10. Those are sales. Asking prices individually $1.50. $1.50 for this book, or you want the whole run 8 series set, it's asking $10. It's not expensive. It's easy to find, and it's definitely a book you can go and track down and flip through in those boxes if you wanted to. Now, with that also said, if you are in the need for some supplies, use my link in my code RENA10 and save yourself 10% off your next BCW order. You need to get your bags, your boards, your short boxes, long boxes, top loaders, pages for your cards, whatever you need to keep your collectibles safe. It's money you hate spending, but it's money you got to do it because you got to have those things to keep your books and your collectibles safe. So if you got to do it, might as well save some money while you do it. So 10% off, code RENA10 right there. And with that, we're going to pivot away from the new release comics this week and go into some news related to some of the movies coming out in, the semi-near future, I guess we could say. Not right away. These might be a little far off, but still interesting tidbits that came our way related to some comic-themed properties that do have some movies coming. Starting off first with the Star Wars news. Now, I know I've seen plenty of posts, and a lot of people are already talking about this book, but hey, it's out there, and it's a book that's a little over a year. You could probably track it down, and it's all based off of the star of the Bear, Jeremy Allen, being cast as Rota the Hutt. I'm assuming it's just going to be a voice. I don't know if they're going to put him in a suit to do this or what, but Rota the Hutt was this tiny little hut that showed up back in Clone Wars. So, yeah, not much beyond that as far as appearances go, except recently. Recently, we did have a storyline in a comic that did feature the character in the background a little bit. And this is Rota right there. And that is in, again, 2023's Star Wars Hyperspace Stories number 6. 2 covers to this book. Both have a Greedo and a Jabba character on them. Granted, this one just has Jabba's hand, but still, inside the guts of this book, in the background here, you can see there's Rota and a man talking to him. So you got a Wookiee, you got I can't forget what the Greedo race is called. It's slipping my mind right now. But point being, there's Rota inside this story. So if you wanted to find it, I'm sure you could find this buried in a box somewhere because this did not have a lot of heat on it until this week. So mind you, be careful. Some people might have already gone and dug for this because, again, the news is a couple days old now. So you might have a hard time finding this for cheap, but I still want to let you know in case you stumble across it, because there is still a mix of copies sold this week. We're right around cover price, $4, $4.50. Meanwhile, some did sell for a bit more already. I did see some outlier sales, some $15, even $20 sales, but that's where the asking prices are kind of falling in place now. So the ones listed right now are all looking more for that $15 to $25 kind of value because, again, of the news and the current interest in this character and this comic. This type of stuff passes pretty quickly. Prices will probably come back down again. Now, granted, it might not go back down to being a cover price book as far as online prices go, but it could dip quickly down to like 10 or 15 pretty soon. Who knows? I mean, that's my best guess, but we've seen it happen before. We'll see what happens with this one. But my point isn't looking at specifically the online prices. While I do show them for reference, I'm telling you, go look in your actual stores, your actual shops near you, because this book probably still there for some of you. So go look for it. It's probably still there. So with that said, keep an eye out for that Hyperspace Stories number 6. Again, I'm sorry I didn't give you both covers, but there are 2 covers for it. And our last bit of news is a bit about Henry Cavill. Yes, I'm a fan. And Warhammer. We know he's a fan. So this has been stewing for a while now. The name has been tied to a Warhammer something or other forever. But now we get news that Amazon is funding and backing him to oversee a cinematic universe. So what does that mean? That to me sounds more than one movie. Maybe it's a movie and a show. Maybe it's multiple movies in a show. Maybe it's just multiple movies. That I don't know for certain yet, but I'm very curious to see where this goes. While I'm not a big fan of the property, I don't know much about the game or the background of Warhammer, apart from you got some mechs, you got some magic. The broad strokes I get. All I know is I think this could be fun and this could be good. Now, I'm not going to point to those first appearances of Warhammer, which I don't remember if they were IDW or Boom, but they're definitely on the indie side of things. Go back to the early 2000s, and there's a couple of options there to go with the actual first appearance. And then there was that UK book as well. I think we already talked about that on an earlier show. The ones I want to talk about today aren't specifically tied to the first appearance of Warhammer in comics, but just, again, it's a cinematic universe. So if it's going to be a universe, it could be multiple stories coming our way. Not a lot of comics to go mine from, but there are 2 Marvel runs, 2 Marvel minis that I think are worth keeping an eye out for. The first one being this Marnius Calgar miniseries, things like 5 or 6 issues. There are some incentive variants and some later printing copies to look for as too that actually do very, very well already. But just go and look for this entire run of Marnius Calgar, because who knows, by the time this thing comes out and we start getting product, this could be something that gets tied to. This could be something connecting some of the dots. But even now, copies of number 1, is it just number 1? Yeah, $20. I see a copy number 2 sell for $11. Is that issue 5 sold for $5? So any issue, again, for the whole series, keep an eye out for them. Hopefully you can find them for cheap. Asking prices, again, this is just number 1 as examples, but like 15 to $20 seems to be a current ask. Hopefully you find it cheaper. Go and find it in a box somewhere buried, because not everybody is going to be up on the Warhammer angle. So there's probably a lot of shops out there who didn't bother to price this thing above just regular back issue stock discount. You know what I mean? With that said, that's the first mini from the Marvel side of things. Then later on, the next year, they did produce another mini series based in the Warhammer universe, and this is Sisters of Battle. Came out in August of 2021. I believe there's like 5 issues of this thing too. Could be 6, but I think it's 5. Another series you can go and look for, because again, could be a project related to these characters. I don't know. We'll see. Not a lot of info yet. Still in the very early stages of this thing, but doesn't hurt to go and find books now, especially if you can go find them for cheap, which is why I put them into a show like this. Like, this stuff may never pan out. Could be nothing, but hopefully you ever found it in a box for $1 or $2 and you're not investing a ton of cash, because that's not what I'm trying to get you to do. I'm just saying, let's have some fun. Let's go find some books. And this is some stuff that could be worth looking at somewhere down the line. That said, this series is just like the last, except it's even cheaper. Look, $5 issue 1 sold for. The whole 1 through 5 set sold for $44 recently. Meanwhile, asking prices, issue 1 is cheap as $2.66 up to $4.20. So basically like cover price and less. You can find copies, or you can find the entire 5-issue miniseries for $25, which is basically cover price. Maybe you find it cheaper, and then maybe you'll be able to do something with this somewhere down the line. Again, it's just a fun option, something for you to look for when you're out there digging in those boxes this weekend. And with that all said, that's all I got for you this week. So hopefully you still find this series fun. Hopefully you find some of these books when you're out there doing your digging, doing your hunting, because that's what makes this hobby kind of fun. Everybody loves to score big when they're going digging those boxes, but while you're trying to find those big scores, it doesn't hurt to have some extra little challenges and things to keep you honest and to keep you on your toes while you're flipping through the boxes. So that's kind of why I like to put random books like this onto lists and just kind of give you more information, because there's nothing wrong with a little bit of info, right? That all said, thanks again for all the support and for checking this out. Check out all the shows we do have here on the channel. And with that said, I will see you all later with some more content. All right, bye.